Let's bring in right now Shannon Cross of Cross Research. She's one of the most accurate forecasters of Dell stock, making her a Bloomberg best. We appreciate you, Shannon, taking some time here to talk to us about the numbers that just came across the ticker. So what do you think? I mean, were people bracing themselves for kind of an HP story and now pleasantly surprised?
Well, I think people will be happy with the numbers, but I'm not sure people were bracing themselves for an HP story other than HP's corporate side of the business, if you net out the services. But you look at their enterprise business and even what they saw on the PC side for corporations was strong. So it kind of follows through that Dell's would be as well. And, clearly, Dell is in a good position with their customer base because they do have limited exposure to consumer.
I'm curious, Shannon, when we talk about the services business that suffered at HP, particularly the margins, why do you think Dell, it looks at least at first glance like Dell did better on that specific front? Why do you think that is?
Well, I think part of the problem is you have EDS, which is effectively, HP's services business is having problems. And it was basically a company that had been milked for profitability over the prior administration, and they hadn't been investing as much. And I think what HP decided today was to take the pill and basically say, or take their medicine and say, we can continue on this path and run into a wall at some point in time, or we can sort of reset expectations, reinvest in the business, really drive, some vertical solutions, hire more salespeople, and, at the end of the day, have a more sustainable, profitable business.
What about the cost cutting, though? I mean, understandable that there's a rough road ahead for PC demand right now. It's understandable that the tablet business is, at least for now, dampening demand for PCs among consumers. But if you're so worried that, any hiring is frowned upon and forget about discretionary spending, like Christmas drinks are out the door, isn't that a concerning sign for a company?
Well, look, I think that, it depends on what segment you're looking at. Dell doesn't spend that much in terms of R&D in the PC business anymore. They focus their R&D, as they should, on their storage business and on other, areas where there's growth opportunities. So I think, I would say probably within HP, it's less purely no more hiring and freeze everything and just sort of, throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's more let's focus on where we're actually going to get growth and we're going to benefit. And again, that's one of the reasons why they're investing more on the services side.
Matt just mentioned costs, and I want to bring up that gross margin number again, 23.4% at Dell. Do you think that that is a sustainable number, considering that we've seen costs for almost everything going up?
Well, I think even Dell would say that, likely there's pressure from a component standpoint as you go further into the year. And in talking with HP today, they also noted that they expect tightening components. But remember, Dell is also mix shifting to higher margin revenue, as is HP for that matter. And with Dell, they're moving more into storage and some of the services and other things that move away from sort of the low margin, just pure client, let me go buy a PC from Dell business, and more what can, Dell do to sort of help drive my data center and my cloud offerings.
I wonder about the tablets. Julie said, they don't have a viable tablet offering for the consumer. But does anybody, is it even worth getting into this business with the iPad out there? Can you offer a better product for $500 than the iPad?
Well, so far nobody's been able to do that. If you look at what happened with the Zoom and you look at, Playbook. HP's touchpad, I think, will be interesting. I'm far more interested in the touchpad from a corporate standpoint because I think HP with their enterprise business can probably do a little more customization than Apple's going to be willing to do. But clearly, Apple's a juggernaut. And, look at iPod, right? We've had all sorts of competition come in, and iPod still has about 70% market share. It's going to be incredibly hard for people to fight the ecosystem that Apple's developed.
Do you see, though, an enterprise explosion for tablets? We didn't and maybe couldn't have had that for iPods, obviously, but do you see a cloud type of growth here for enterprise tablet usage?
I think there'll be substantial tablet usage. We see sort of a difference between content consumers and content creators. And the content creators, which I would be because I write all of these research reports you people all read, but, we need our PC, right? We need our keyboard and that. But content consumers just need to be able to read. So I think there is an opportunity over time for tablets. I still think PCs will be, a big part of the corporate world, but I do think, there are areas where tablets could come in.
And is Dell even going to be on the map in that department?
Well, they do have some offerings, albeit I think they would admit they're not particularly successful at this point. I think everybody's going to have to try to find a way to compete. The challenge is, whereas HP actually has WebOS, which is the operating system, Dell and a lot of others, and actually RIM has their own and what have you, but a lot of others we're going to have to rely upon Android, and Android clearly has some challenges.
Let me ask you about Leo Apotheker, because Jules mentions a comment by Brian Marshall saying that, Mark Hurd delivered consistent earnings and Leo just hasn't done that yet. Do you think it's fair? I mean, he's obviously just come into this position here.
I think it's rather early to be hitting him on that. It's true. I mean, clearly, it's interesting, though, actually. They've hit their earnings. It's just been the guidance that's not really pulled out, which, again, doesn't matter. The stock's down, and you have to, you have to deal with it. But I think it's a bit early to be hitting him for, what he walked into. Again, on the services side, I think there was probably pretty significant underinvestment that was done under the prior administration.
Shannon, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Shannon Cross there from Cross Research.